Hey, what is up? What's up? So, this is the second episode of this Financial Mirror. For all those that tuned in last week, I want to truly appreciate your support, first and foremost. So, great feedback from the first episode last week on your financial report card. Hopefully, everyone's able to go out and do that. That was a challenge from last week. So, for those that were not able to attend last week that are here today, just know that weekly we will be doing a challenge that hopefully you'll go out and you'll challenge yourself to complete that so that you can increase your financial freedom in your life. So with that, today is focused strictly on budgeting. So budgeting. No one wants to have a budget. No one really looks forward to setting a budget. Oh, by the way, for all those that told me about the audio thing, hopefully the audio sounds better now. I know last week there was some cutting in and out. I got good feedback from that, so I really appreciate that. And sorry, total derailment from budgeting, but I just want to say thanks for that, for all the people that reached out and told me about the crackling of the cutting in and out of the audio. Hopefully we got that fixed. So with that, back to budgeting. I totally derailed myself, lost all my train of thought. So that's fine. So this is live. So everything that we do on this stream weekly will be live. I was able to upload the video to Facebook and YouTube respectively. For those that missed that, the intention was originally to be on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, all simultaneously. But due to a Twitch requirement, they won't let me do it. So it's fine. We'll do it live on Twitch, and then we'll upload it tomorrow after the 24 hours is up. So back to budgeting. So this is about how your budgeting month will go, is you will completely derail yourself constantly. So a great learning opportunity. So I'm gonna start off. So to start this whole entire stream off, we're gonna focus on two quotes. I have no idea who said the first one. I tried to find it. If someone in the chat pops in and tells me who said this, I couldn't find who said it. But the first quote is, self-evaluation is difficult. Self-evaluation is difficult, but it is necessary for growth. So while it's hard for you to tell yourself that what you're doing is not working, it's hard for you to tell yourself that what you're doing is not getting you to where you want to be. And this isn't just financially, this is just a life thing. If what you're doing is not getting you where you want to be, not only is it difficult for you to tell yourself these things, it's also very difficult for you to have to hear it from someone else. So if any of the things I say today with budgeting, because budgeting is a very, very sore subject for people, but if anything I say makes you self-reflect on yourself, take that as that is what is necessary for you to grow. So if you're going to really and truthfully put forth effort into this budgeting thing, and go after this budgeting with a purpose, it is vital that you first and foremost evaluate yourself to get that growth. When you look at the budgeting for itself, right? This one is a very, very relevant. First off, very relevant quote. I use this when I'm discussing budgeting with friends, family, co-workers, anybody. I use this quote, and you will hear me say this quote. If you ever ask me about budgeting out and about, if you just saw me and you asked me about budgeting, I would use this quote. John Maxwell said it. Multiple financial experts use this quote. But budgeting is very simply stated as, this is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. I will use that quote, live by that quote, because ultimately that's all a budget is you putting a physical label on every dollar that you make, and using those labels to push that money into those different pots of expenses, regardless of what they are. So once again, I'm gonna repeat it. So budgeting is telling your money tell your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. So if at the end of the month you're like, holy smokes, I made XYZ dollars this month and I have no idea where all that money went. If you've ever told yourself these things, you have to, like, everyone at some point in their life, it's like, man, like I had $100 and then it's gone. Like, I don't know where it went. Like, people say these things all the time, but it's very important that if you took that same $100 or you took your paycheck and you told you labeled every dollar that came out of that paycheck and you say, that's going to go here, here, here. At the end of the month, you would say, if I ask you, I was like, hey, where'd your money go? You should, when you're budgeting, you can say, well, I my money went here, my money went here, my money went here. You can start to identify, where are you wasting money or where are you spending money unnecessarily? We went over that in the financial report card last week, but you can start to see where money is just disappearing, and it is not the word disappearing. It's a bad word that I use, but it's literally where it's going to where it's not getting you to where you want to be. So those two quotes, I wanted to start with that because, like I said, that is vital to understanding where you're going to end up financially. It is, if you do not live by budget, it will be much harder than it has to be for you to get to where you want to be at. So starting with that, let's go through a couple of questions that I prepared. So once again, as I said, I have an agenda of things I want to say, things I want to talk about. But I want, if anyone's not familiar with the Twitch platform, or if anyone's not familiar with how it works, there is a chat box. If there's something that you want to comment on, or you want to me to explain more on, or if I'm not giving you information that is really clicking, pop a question in that chat box, pop a comment in the chat box. Let me know what your thoughts are. Maybe someone else has the same question, but they don't have the ability to put that in the chat box or whatnot. So pop that in there. See if that's something that someone else has a question about. I can get it answered. I can get, anything that you want to say in the chat box. It's there. So this is live. You have my full attention for the duration of the stream. So let me know if you have anything. So a couple of questions I wrote down, right? The first question and these are questions that you should be asking yourself. So every month, everyone that's tuned into the stream, whether you're watching this live on this wonderful Sunday afternoon where the Miami Heat are going to go against the Lakers, and I hope the Miami Heat win, for all those that don't know, I'm a Miami Heat fan. You make a certain amount of money each month. Every month, you make a certain amount of money. This is your income. Every month, you have an income. Only you and those you share it with know what your income is. But my question is, do you know how much your income is? That most people do, in fact, know how much their income is. But do you know down to the dollar how much your income is? Does your income fluctuate? Do you have a income that is hourly? Do you have an income that is you're on a salary? Does that fluctuate week to week, month to month? If it does, like, do you know how much that fluctuates? Because that ultimately that is a huge part of how you budget, right? So if you really do not know how much money you make, what's your income every month, I'm gonna ask yourself that. If you can't answer it right this second, at the end of this, when you're done watching, go look that up. Go find out how much money you make every single month. How much do you make? And you're gonna need that for the rest of the budget. Tracking that, knowing that, will help you in the long run. So that's gonna take me to the next question. How much are your expenses? that that is a question that there are a ton of people, and I have no clue on the percentage. There's a ton of people that have no idea how much they spend every month. No idea. They spend freely, and they have no idea how much that is. So expenses. We're going to talk a lot about expenses throughout this whole entire budgeting with a purpose. That's what I titled this: budgeting with a purpose. What that purpose is, we'll get to it, and everyone's is different. So, do you know how much goes toward your expenses? If you do not, that's the next thing. Your next homework assignment is to get your income if you don't know it, get your expenses if you don't know it. Two things. So get those two things if you don't know them already. But if you don't, this is where you have to start. You have to start with those two things. You have to know what your income is. You have to know what your expenses are, because ultimately that is your budget. Once you figure out how much your income is and how much your expenses is, and balancing that out to where you have a $0 budget, that's where you want to be at. So if you don't know those things, I challenge you, go get them. Go get those two items. You need it. You need it. So, if you'll fail on your budget if you don't. So I can't reiterate it enough. So go get it. If that's going to take me to my next point. So last week I talked about credit cards. So I'm going to mention credit cards. This will be the only mention of it probably this whole stream, unless I get on some side tangent that would bring me back to credit cards. But for credit cards, if you cannot, I talked about you don't have to cut up your credit cards. I'm not the credit card Nazi that says cut them up because you can't be financially successful without them. There's no rich people in the world that make millions off of credit card reward points and all the other things that I've heard people say throughout all the reading and listening that I've partaked in. None of that matters. What I will say is, if you cannot establish a budget, cut up your credit cards. You do not need a credit card if you cannot fully devote yourself to a budget. And I'm going to tell you why, and hopefully that'll bring some light onto the reasoning. But if you can't control your income's hardest to control, but if you can't control your expenses, which is what a credit card would pay for, would be expenses, whether that be shopping, utilities, rent. We'll talk about rent on a credit card topic, but you shouldn't be paying it with a credit card unless you absolutely have to. But that's a whole nother topic. So, but expenses with a credit card, you should, I repeat, should not use a credit card if you cannot control yourself on a budget. You will absolutely get out of control with your credit card. You will not be able to pay that off monthly. You will pay interest, and you will absolutely make the credit card companies richer than they already are. So do not use credit cards if you can't live off of a budget. I also would say I'm not opposed to people using credit cards while they're in debt. However, if you're in debt, if you have debt of any kind, it's not ideal, I would say, to continue to put yourself at risk of being more in debt by utilizing a credit card. So I would easily recommend, and this is a recommendation, nothing I give on here is something you have to do. Take your situation and apply this to it. But if you are using a credit card and you have debt, I would challenge you to pay off all your debt before going back to using that credit card. I'm just a firm believer that, and I think that's where everyone's getting at with cutting up credit cards in the long run, is because it's a blanket statement that some people are responsible with credit cards and some are not. So I said I wasn't going to talk much about it, but that's it. If you'll use a budget, you can manage yourself using a credit card if you're going to live by the budget. If you're not, get rid of the credit card. You don't have to cut it up. Put it to the side, look at it as a Christmas present or something whenever you get all your debt paid off and you get to where budgeting is easier to live by. So you use that strategy. But you have to you have to have a goal in mind when you're coming up with this budget. You have to have some kind of goal in mind, or budgeting is going to feel like you're handcuffed. If you don't know why you're doing everything that you're doing, you don't really have a appreciate the description. You don't really have a reason to budget. You don't have a reason at all. Dang, man, I just realized you subscribed for 3 months. That's from the old stream. But you don't really have a reason to budget if you don't have a goal. Like you have to have some kind of goal all the time. Like financially, you have to continue to move forward and have goals in what you're doing. So I'm going to go through a couple of the goals that I wrote down that people are more common to have. So number one, pay off debt. So the number one goal people want is to pay off debt. Like they want to be able to pay off their debt and begin to actually feel the freedom of just living with their paycheck. So it's very important for budgeting. It's very important to meet that goal. That goal is going to be almost impossible without budgeting. Not impossible. It can be done. But budgeting will give you a better idea. It'll keep you motivated to get there, because you'll know you can, through budgeting, you would see about a timeline that it should take you to pay off that debt. So by seeing that timeline, you can actually feel like you're making progress versus blindly throwing money at a bill that every month doesn't seem to change. You just keep throwing it at it, and every month it doesn't seem to go down. So budgeting actually makes you feel and see progress on those things. So pay off debt. Second one, emergency funds. We're going to go over emergency funds on a later segment. But emergency funds is strictly just having money set to the side when you need it. The goal in budgeting is you've got to set that up early. You've got to get something set up early for an emergency fund. We'll talk about that later. Retirement's the other big, besides paying off debt, people want to retire. We talked about it last week. Retirement is switching more to on the onus of the employee or on the person, and they're moving away from pensions. Government's probably one of the only big entities that now work off of pensions. So there are some that are still paying out pensions for retirement, but you will start to see more of a movement towards more 401k based retirement plans. So retirement is the other big one. So pay off debt and retirement, top two that you'll see. The emergency fund is a goal, but it's normally not one of those that people are long term looking at. That's more of a short term trying to add that up. The other one, down payment on a house. That's another thing that's another financial goal people look forward to. So that should be a rewarding thing for a budget. You're looking forward to buying that home. You've got to save for that down payment. You've got to beat PMI. You've got to beat these things. You've got to set yourself up for success when you do buy that home. Don't just buy it blindly. Don't jump into it. People say you're wasting money if you're renting. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. You can put yourself in a terrible position by buying a home when you're not ready. So house down payment's huge. Vacations, fun stuff, right? So budgeting leads to vacations, leads to new cars, leads to big purchases. Budgeting helps you achieve those things. So this is all stuff that's rewarding when you actually live and breathe your budget, when you understand it, when you know how much money you have left to put into certain categories, when you know how much you need to devote to each label. We talked about labeling each label of every dollar that you're bringing in, and I'm going to go over some ways to do it. So complaints. Why do people say that they don't like to budget? Why do people push back on budgeting? So I went over all these great things, all these things that budgeting can bring, that people can look at and say, man, like these are all great things. Like I want these things. I want to be able to retire. I want to be able to buy that new car. I want to go on vacation. I want to buy a home. Like what's keeping you from achieving those things? And these are the things that you will tell yourself. These are the top reasons people complain about budgeting. The absolute number one: you feel like you're straitjacketing your life. Like you feel like you're handcuffed. You feel like you're limited. You feel like you are not able to enjoy life. Things that I hear people say. Top thing: I work for my money. I should be able to do what I want with it. That's the number one thing, right? So I work for my money. Why can I not spend it how I want? Like that's a valid point. 100% valid point. Now let me flip it on you. Let me tell you, or ask you even. This is a question. Who makes your budget? Who makes it? If I'm in charge of making your budget, then you have a valid point. You have a valid point that says that's my money. I work for it. I should be able to spend it how I want. Perfect point. Valid. But I don't make your budget. I don't know how much you make. I don't know what your expenses are. I don't know anything about your financial situation. So who should make your budget is you. So if you make your budget, how are you limiting yourself? How are you not spending your money on what you want to spend it on? So that it's a mute point when someone says that, or if you're telling yourself that, it's a very mute point, and you have to. And like I said at the beginning of this, it's difficult. It's difficult to evaluate yourself, but I will tell you that it's a mute point, and you have to put that into your head that if you're budgeting, you're limiting yourself. If you're budgeting, you're not spending your money where you want to, because normally why you're telling yourself you're not able to spend the money where you want to is because all those fun things that I went over, you're not able to put your money into that. But let me tell you, the reason why you're not able to put your money into that when you budget is because you can't afford it. If you can't fit those things into your budget, you can't afford it at this time. You've got to understand that key concept. And I know it's difficult. Hard pill to swallow. I got it. But if you cannot put all these things that you want into your budget, and you feel limited, then I'm telling you, you cannot afford it. You cannot afford what you're trying to go after. So take a step back, slow down, make that, whatever that is, make that your goal. We talked about financial goals. Make that your goal. And now we're starting to move. Like I said, you're making progress. You've got to make progress. You've got to take the baby steps that are needed to get to where you want to be. And if you don't have the income to support what you're trying to buy or what you're trying to do or what you're trying to get, you are at this very moment in your life, you are not able to afford what you're trying to accomplish or get or buy or whatever, attain, whatever word we want to use in that situation. You're not able to get it. So make that your financial goal. Make that what you're working for. Make that the piece that you are striving to achieve, and you will get there. I promise you will get there. But do it when you can afford it. Because when you do things, or when you buy things, or when you get things that you cannot afford, you will not enjoy them as much. When you buy the new car, or you buy the home, let's use a home, because a home is a huge purchase. When you buy that home that you could not afford, that you had to figure out how to buy, and you purchase that, why you're not going to enjoy it as much, because you're struggling, or you're having issues trying to pay for this, trying to pay for this asset, or that you it's almost a liability at that point. People want to look at a home as an asset, but when you cannot afford it, it has become a liability on your life. So why do that to yourself? So I wanted to hit that, because that's the number one piece that people want to say, is that they feel limited, that they feel like that the joy of working, it doesn't seem like that they're getting anywhere. But that's totally not true. It is literally just a wake up call to say, hey, look, dude, hey, look, you cannot afford this, but you will. You have to tell yourself that. I have to tell myself that. You cannot afford this right this second, but if you will budget and you will set aside what you need, you will be able to get that. You will earn it, and you will feel much better about achieving it when you've done it the right way. So that's enough on that one. But if you that's the number one thing that people say. So I wanted to put a lot of time to that one. I don't have time. Budgeting does take time. It takes time initially to figure out that income, to figure out those expenses, to figure out where your money's going. Initially, it takes time. I'm going to show you at the end of this a couple of applications, a couple of ways to do this. So we'll go over that. We will establish some of the things that you can use, some of the tools you can use, and to make it a little bit easier. So, but after your first budget, so it does take time initially, but after that first budget, it's almost, you have to update it, but you're almost adjusting at that point. You know how much your expenses are. Your expenses don't really change that much. You may add a couple, subtract a couple as things are paid off, so forth and so on, but your expenses don't really change. So you've got to make sure that you put the time in initially, set it up, get a solid foundation on the budget, and then you're just making minor tweaks, minor adjustments throughout the month to month as you're doing new budgets, and you should be fine. That's not a huge thing, but there's a couple of automated things you can do from a tools perspective that can help with that, but we'll get to that. So you don't like tracking your spending, okay? So number one reason goes back to the number one reason people don't like to budget. The reason people don't like to track their spending is because they don't want to realize or self-evaluate themselves on where they're blowing their money. So if I love, let's come up with a cool example. Okay, so I enjoy playing video games. All right, that's something I love to do. Me and my friends play video games. So what if I put hundreds and hundreds of dollars into video games? Why would I want to track spending of video games? The category, if I made a category for my budget and it said video games, why would I ever want to track spending so that I saw and I could literally feel what $1,000 into video games felt like? Why would I want to do that? Well, I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to look at something that I'm so passionate, that I enjoy so much. I wouldn't want to look at that and say, wow, I'm really blowing my money on video games. And for you, it may be different. For you, it may be you just love weekend shopping, or you love going out to eat, or you love whatever. For everybody, it's different. For everybody, what they enjoy doing, and it may be a positive something that you enjoy, like going out and exercising, like playing golf or something. Let's say you enjoy playing golf, but you play golf every weekend. Playing golf is expensive. For anyone that plays golf, playing golf is expensive. So if you put money into that, and you were like, holy cow, I'm just putting a lot of money into golf, you don't want to notice that. You don't want to feel that, because the second you do, you feel like you're not going to enjoy playing golf as much. But it goes back to, it won't feel like that if you can afford it. It won't feel like it's a burden if you truly can afford it. So this budget will give you that peace of mind. It'll give you that easiness to say, wow, I can afford this. It's in the budget. Like, I've got the income. My expenses are all laid out. Like, I can afford this. So it takes that burden away. So if you say right now, I don't like to track my spending, try budgeting, and you will see that spending tracking is not as gruesome, is not as hurtful as you think it is right now, because you really don't know where your money's going. If you feel like that, you really don't know where your money's going, and it's scary to think that by not knowing where your money's going, that you're blowing it, and you probably are. You probably are blowing it, especially if you have other financial requirements that you should be taking or tending to. So that's another one. This is the next one is another complaint that is heard, but your spouse doesn't want to budget. So you're married, you have a joint account, your spouse doesn't want to budget, but you do, your spouse doesn't. So I'll go over joint finances in the future. We'll go over different ways to go about joint finances, when you're married. So I'm not going to go into detail for that. So just for the time being, going through this first budgeting stream, I want to be simplistic in how I want you to think about budgeting in a marriage, budgeting when you have joint finances. So I want you to imagine that, and this is maybe how you have it set up, it may not, but I want you to imagine that you have a joint account, that only your paycheck, half of what the expenses are go into the joint account, the rest of what you make go into your personal account. I want you to imagine budgeting the income that's left over after that, your half of the expenses has gone into that joint account. Only utilize the income after that split has happened. And then here, let's do this. Because I want to give an image. Paint 3D. This is fancy paint. This isn't the regular one. All right, so up here. Oh, there we go. Up here. This is actually, let's go back. Let's give some undo. There we go. So this is you over here. This is your spouse over here. Down here you have a joint account. Over here you have your personal expenses. Over here you have your spouse's personal expenses. Half of your money. So whatever half of the expenses are. So half of expenses, let's say expenses are $1,000. Oh, look at that. $1,000. So each are gonna put 500. All right, makes sense. All right, so this is for simplicity for this whole budgeting thing. If this is not how you do it, this is a idea if you so choose. So 500, each put 500 in this. You make 1,000. Actually, come on, this is slow. So let's say you make 1,000, and why is this not adding me more text? Okay, anyways, I don't know why my text thing isn't working. I'm not used to fancy 3D paint. So if you make 1,000, 500 goes here, 500 goes here. I only want you to focus on budgeting this 500 over here. Your spouse, if they don't want to budget, let them blow their 500. If they make 1,000, let them blow their 500 over there. So I only want you to focus on you in this sense. You're putting your money into the joint account for expenses. The other little bit is coming over here, and you are budgeting if you made 1,000, like I stated, really wish I could get this to say, oh, there it goes. Okay. I don't know. I have no, is that how you do this? Nope. Okay. I have no idea. So it's okay. You make 1,000, so 500. So only budget this 500. Got it? All right. That's all we have to talk about for that. So I want you to imagine that. If your spouse doesn't want to budget, we'll talk about joint budgeting later. But for the time being, you budget what you're left over from your expenses for your personal. All right. Last one. Budget makes you feel bad. Budgeting might make you feel bad. Budgeting may make you feel deprived. But if it does, why? Why let budgeting make you feel deprived? You only will feel deprived, once again, if you say, I will never be able to get what I want. I am always working for nothing. I will never be able to enjoy life. I will always, these are terrible negative statements. However, they use the same terms, always and never. We're not going to use the terms always and never when we're discussing our finances. It's more along the lines of, I can't right now, I will in the future. You have to set yourself mentally up for what's going to come in the future. So don't let budgeting make you feel deprived. All right. Straightforward, upfront, simple. Don't let your budget make you feel deprived. It shouldn't. It should not make you feel deprived. You should feel very encouraged because you know that your money is going to make a difference eventually. So you will be able to do the things you want. You will be able to buy what you want. If anything, I would tell you that after this, you will be much, much better off in terms of being able to freely buy the things that you want, because all of your debt's going to be paid. You're going to work towards that. You're going to set that up. You're going to budget in all these payments. So I was in between what I wanted to talk about next week, but I'm going to move debt to next week. So debt will be next week, so everyone's aware. We will go completely over debt, different kinds of debt, best ways to pay off debt. We'll go over all that. So that's gonna be next week. So we won't focus so much on debt this time, so I'm going to cover that next week. So tune in next week to grab that. So you will feel more financially free when you actually start cutting those areas where you're sort of using abundance of your income is going towards a certain expense. You will actually feel more financially free when you cut that and you start putting that towards these things that you actually want, not these short term. I put a tweet out for anyone that follows me on Twitter or Facebook. So you follow the Facebook page, but it talked about how if you continue to put your money into these short term rewards, they are short term rewards. You're only dragging out the amount of time it's going to take you to achieve long term wealth. So don't constantly just keep rewarding yourself with short-term rewards. You're constantly just feeding yourself short-term rewards. Start thinking long-term. Start thinking where you're like where are you going to be, but where's your family going to be? Where do you want to be financially? Start thinking in that light, because if you're only thinking about the today, you're only achieving those short-term rewards, and they do not last. Short-term rewards do not last. So if you're putting all of your money into short-term rewards, that chemical in your brain that triggers and it says, I'm happy. I got rewarded. I got what I wanted. I went and played golf. I bought that video game. I got that cup of coffee. Like I got what I wanted. That quickly fades. It's going to go away, and you're going to want another short-term reward, versus putting all of your time into this long-term wealth development and going through this process. As painful as it is at first, it only gets better. I promise you. Going forth, doing this long process, it gets easier, it gets better, and you'll actually get to where you're feeling just that burden of finances not bogging you down. So go forth with that. It's crucial. It's absolutely crucial to achieving what you want out of life, because in all cases, it's going to take money is going to be a requirement to do whatever it is you're trying to do. So how do we budget? So we've got to come up with the steps necessary. So I think I've got 6 steps written out. Yeah. Y'all can't see it, but it's just boom, 6 steps. So that's all I go off of, 6 steps. So we will go over these 6 steps, and you will be able to see what it takes to budget, how you're going to budget. So the very first step that you're going to need to budget is to establish that emergency fund. Whatever emergency fund money you can put together. Whether it's $200, $500, everyone wants to, recommend $1,000 emergency fund. But if you can't right now, right this minute, today, establish $1,000 emergency fund, put together what you can now, or do that today. Establish that emergency fund before going into this budget, because I'm going to go over a couple of the reasons that you would possibly need to go into your emergency fund, but for the most part, you shouldn't have to touch that emergency fund. But if you do, if you have to for whatever reason, have it ready. So do this now. because you're gonna need it. You're gonna need it later on in the stream. So platforms, your platform of choosing is absolutely completely up to you. How you do your budget is completely up to you. I mean, I could take a pen and a piece of paper every month, write down my income, write down my expenses, track them the old manual way for anyone that used to track like checkbook expenses and stuff. If you remember in the checkbook, you had, when you wrote a check out, right, you put the check number, you put the amount, you put where it went to. Like, for anyone that remembers that or that did that, I'm sure plenty of people remember it. If you did that and you remember balancing a checkbook, that's practically your budgeting. You're filling those gaps, right? So pen and paper, if that is your preferred method, go with it. There is nothing wrong with pen and paper. Doing it an old-fashioned pen and paper way is absolutely a-okay. Hold your receipts when you get home. If you pay with a card, if you pay with cash, ask for your receipt, grab it, take it home, write them all down on your pen and paper when you get home. A-okay. But there are more modern ways to do it, right? So online and apps, applications on your phone and online. Top 2 ways people are budgeting nowadays. I'm going to go over some examples. I'm going to go over some of the sites. I'll show you the one that I personally use. But do it that way. A digital platform is perfect for utilizing for budgeting. And then finally, the last one is a cash only budget. So for cash only, so I'm going to hit this quickly. I think I'll bring it up one more time at the end when we're actually going over the different types of budgets. But cash only, right? So with cash only budgets, what you do is you take out at the beginning of the month, when you set your budget up, you're going to take out how much money you need for your expenses. Some people may, if you want to use your checking account as your emergency fund account, because emergency funds should be quickly accessible money. So if you do need it, but if you want to, what you would do is you would take out all of your money except for the money you have set aside to pay any debt you have that you need to pay with your debit or credit. Don't pay credit card. Don't pay debt with more debt. So don't pay your debt with a credit card. I don't know why I said that. Bad advice. If you're gonna have to pay off a credit card, or you have other means that you use your like auto draft or anything like that, don't take that out. But if you're going to do a cash only budget, what you do is, let's use food for example. You take out all the money that you're going to use for food. Let's say you have a budget of $500. You're going to take $500 out in cash, stick it in an envelope, write food on the outside. And when you go to the grocery store, in your hand you have your food envelope and you pay cash. And when your envelope's empty, you're out of money. You've done all your food. If you need to buy food after your food envelope is empty, you grab money out of another, and this is balancing your budget, grab money out of another envelope, put it in your food envelope, and now you have more food money. You have less now, whatever else money. Money to, like, I have a budget for getting a haircut. So maybe I don't get a haircut that week or whatever. I have to look scruffy or whatever it is. You've got to take money somewhere to put that money back into the food envelope. So that's the strategy for cash, and that you have an envelope for everything. Everything has an envelope, and you're moving cash around, right? So that's the cash budget. So if you want to do cash budgeting, that's the method to doing it. So it's a viable option if you're a cash only person. Viable option, run with it. But the next question that you're going to have, when should a budget be established? And I will tell you, at the beginning of the month. Your budget is established at the beginning of every month. So sit down, first day of the month, a week before, whatever it is, sit down, do your budget. you've got to. It doesn't matter when you get paid. So some people are paid bi-weekly, some people are paid monthly, some people are paid whenever. It doesn't matter. Make your budget on what you anticipate to make that month. When it comes to income, so when you're doing your budget, when it comes to income, be very conservative. When it comes to expenses, be very aggressive. That makes sense. If you think you're going to make 1,000, if you think not, this goes back to, do you know your income? Does your income fluctuate? If you think you're going to make 1,000, but you possibly might make less, put the less. Don't put the 1,000. Don't budget out money that you think you're going to get. If there's ever question, don't budget it. For expenses, if you're expensing money and you think your power bill is $180 a month, you think maybe you should put it for $190. Maybe you should put it for $200. Maybe you should, because at the end of the day, if you budgeted for $200 and it's only $180, you've got $20 left over, versus the opposite effect where you budgeted for $180 and now it's $200 and you're in the whole $20. So we're conservative with our income. We're aggressive with our expenses. Very, very important of that. Conservative with your income, aggressive with your expenses. So sit down, beginning of the month, first and foremost. Write out your budget. When you get paid, write out your budget. You normally will be able to get that rhythm at the beginning of the month where you're just adjusting your budget. Very important. You're going to end up where you've got all these things done. You're just adjusting the budget. So you need to have those, have everything. It's set in stone. When the next month gets here, it'll be a little bit easier. All right. Third, this is a very, very important concept. You've got to create a zero budget. So what that means is very simple. At the bottom of when your income is when your expenses is subtracted from your income, it should equal zero. There shouldn't be money left over. Go back to John Maxwell's quote: telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. So using that quote, with a zero budget, you have told every bit of your money where to go. So at the end of the month, you don't wonder where it went. So every month, zero budget. You've got to tell every single dollar, you're going to this pot, you're going to this pot, and then life is gravy. Life is easy. You're not going to be wondering, when you go to the grocery store, you're not going to be like, man, maybe I shouldn't get this, I can't afford it. Like, the words "I can't afford" should never come out of your mouth unless you're talking about, I can't afford to go on that vacation right now. And that's very key at the end. Right now, you will be able to get there. But the words during the month that says, I can't afford to buy that, whatever, you should know that your budget's going to tell you. It's going to say, hey, yo, look at me, you can buy me, I'm good, you got me on your budget, so we're good. So know that. All right, so when you're setting up your budget with this zero budget construct, the first items on your budget are those life items, those life essential items. So most important items go, high priority items, whatever we want to call them, they go first. Now, high priority is up for debate. So what you consider high priority, I'm going to tell you what I consider high priority is the things that help me live. These are the life essential items. Your morning coffee is not a high priority item. You will live without it. Like, you will absolutely wake up the next day without a morning cup of coffee. Hard to believe. I got it. Very, very hard to believe, but you will. So create the budget. Build out those categories first. Auto draft your money when possible. Auto draft just keeps you from being late on payments. What else is great about auto draft is your most of mine, this is my particular, yours might be totally different. most of my auto draft dates for my utilities, it's almost as if they talk to each other, because they're very spread out throughout the month. So if you are paid bi-weekly or whatever, your auto draft dates may be different. And I'll tell you, if they're not different, most things you can change your auto draft date by calling them, by going online, whatever the case may be. Most things you can change an auto draft date, and that is to include debt payments, like credit cards, like things like that. Listen, when you owe money to somebody, they are more than happy to change that date. I promise you. They just want to get paid. So call them. If your electricity and water is already due at the first of the month, call your credit card company if you're trying to pay that debt off, and say, hey, can I pay you at the middle of the month? Not at the end of the month, the middle of the month, because the end of the month, you're going to be right around the corner from the beginning of the month. You'll be right back where you were. So the middle of the month. So call these people, talk to them, let them know, hey, give them your situation. Tell them that I'm trying to pay you. Look, dude, I'm trying to give you my money. Take it at the middle of the month. So call these people and tell them, and they'll listen to you. Buffers, create buffers in your budget. Don't let any kind of don't fill your budget. The best way to say this, don't fill your budget with all of this stuff that I have in my budget is very static, like it can't change. It will make it harder to budget, not impossible. Nothing's impossible when it comes to budgeting. But if everything in your budget is static, and it is like it has to be this, or you don't make it. You've got to create some wiggle room. It probably means your expenses have gotten well too close to your income, that you have no buffer. So if that's the case, we've got to either increase income or decrease expenses. Increase income or decrease expenses. So if your budget is too tight, you've got to increase your income or decrease your expenses. The easiest to change is your expenses. It's harder to get more money. Easier to decrease how much you spend. So that's very important. So you've once this is all created, you've got all this set up, you've got everything established, life gets easy. That's when life gets easy. You're just tracking and adjusting. You're tracking and adjusting. When you're adjusting your budget, it's that same concept that we use with the envelopes, right? You're taking your money, and you're saying, I'm no longer going to spend XYZ in I'm not getting that. The easiest, here's where we want to be, right? I'm no longer putting that $200 into my savings account. I'm now needing that $200 to fix my car. I'm now needing that $200 to pay for this unexpected expense. That's where we want to get to, where you have this amount of money that you're anticipating to save, and this unexpected but required high priority expense has popped up that you can no longer save what you thought you could this month. It's now got to go toward an expense. That's how we adjust the budget. That's where I'm talking about. There's got to be a little bit of a buffer where you're saying, or you're trying to save $200 this month, or $500 or $1,000 this month, but you can no longer save that much. Now you may have to save $100 or $50 or $20 or whatever, and it's now got to go towards something else. So you've got to get that kind of buffer in there. That's all I was trying to get at, and that's what the adjustment is. You're moving. You're saying, I'm no longer going to label this dollar this. It's now this, and it's very simple. You can do it daily. You can do budget adjustments daily, weekly. I do not advise doing it monthly. You're doing them daily or weekly, because if you're trying to do your budget adjustments monthly, you will have overspent in a certain category and underspent in others. And when you do try to balance those out, it will not work. It may work. You may get lucky, but month to month, you will not steadily and consistently come up with zero budgets. Now, right for the right before the month ends, it's very important that you go in and you make sure everything lines up, everything's equaling zero, that your income has covered your expenses. So very important to follow that, because if your income is not exceeding your expenses, if it's the only way that's possible is if you chose to use a credit card, but it's the only way that you're in. And if that's the case, if you've allowed yourself to pay things on the credit card that you cannot pay off the credit card in full, that's where I go back to the beginning. Stop using the credit card. Please stop using the credit card. Don't put yourself more into a worse financial situation for 3 cents on your dollar. That's what most credit cards pay back. Just that's generous, very generous. So most are like a 2 cents or a cent and a half or a cent and a quarter or whatever. Don't put yourself in debt for 3 cents on your dollar. I'm telling you, don't do it. If you are at the end of the month and your income is not exceeding your expenses, you have literally put your expenses on layaway. Like you've said, hey, I'll pay. I don't know if layaway is a good term because you are charged interest. I don't know if layaway is charged interest. Layaway was a little bit before my understanding. So if someone in the chat tells me, did layaway have interest? I really don't know. So if you know, let me know. But if not, you're literally putting putting your expenses on margin. You're requiring a percent interest tied back to your expenses. So don't do that. Now, when it goes to your emergency fund, so this is where your expenses could exceed your income, but your emergency fund steps in, and at that point, your expenses do not exceed your income because you've pulled additional income from an emergency fund. So examples are the questions that I want you to ask yourself when you are determining, should I or should I not pull this from my emergency fund? Is it required? What happens if you don't buy this or you don't pay for this? What happens? Is it unexpected? Did you find out about it today? Did you find out about it yesterday? When did you find out about this? Was it actually unexpected? And then finally, what happens if you don't buy or pay for it? Depending on the answers, if you answered yes, that it is required, yes, it was unexpected, got to ask that last question. What happens if I don't pay for it, if I don't buy it? If the answer to that is that you lose your house, you should dig into your emergency fund. If the answer to that is you lose your job, you lose your car, these are the type of things that are emergencies. Like these are emergent situations. If the you don't pull out of your emergency fund because you don't want to eat ramen for the next week, like that's not required. It may be unexpected, but it's not required. You will live on ramen just fine, like little packages of ramen, not the fancy ramen, but like normal like spam and rice type stuff. Like you're fine. You're gonna live. Like I promise, you're gonna live. So if that's you, pull from your emergency fund. If it's those other things, the house, the car, like you're losing something, like something is going to get completely lost. That's when we go into our emergency fund, not otherwise. So if you still can't come up with the money, your emergency fund is not funded, you're going to have to sell something. Don't go into debt to pay for these expenses. You're going to have to sell something that you have that you no longer use, do a yard sale, come up with some money. You've got to come up with income. Don't always take the easy way out. Don't always just say, hey, I need to put it on a credit card or whatever. Just figure out another way to pay for it. If you're in that situation, you probably just don't need to be going further into debt. You've got to cut somewhere. And think about it. Going back to goals, if you sold something, like if you said, you know what, I'm going to sell my nice cell phone I have and I'm going to buy a more lower end cell phone. Let's use that as an example. Look at that nice, not only can you get another nice, high quality phone. But think about as a goal, like going back to financial goals. You sell off this, you downgrade your phone. You now have a reason, a financial goal. I'm going to get that phone, but I'm going to get a better phone next time. I'm going to have a better phone than I have before. I'm going to get that newest phone that's out. Like those are the type of things. That's how you have to talk to yourself in that positive light, so that you can see that what you're doing is worth it. So at the end of the month, all your money equals zero. Shouldn't be money left over. There's no such thing as there's money left over. If there's money left over, you forgot to label that money. That's all it is. There is no money left over, ever. There's never money left over. So don't tell yourself, oh, I got this left over, I can go spend this here. No, if there's money left over, you did not budget properly. And next month, get your budget a little bit more tight, because at the end of the month, it should be zero. If you want to add that to your budget, and that money couldn't have gone toward a debt or another expense that's required or needed to increase your financial report card grade, then go shopping. Go spend that what was leftover money will now be allocated to shopping. So budget that. So once again, going back, cut expenses. If your income exceeds, if your expenses exceed your income, you got to cut expenses. Your income will change month to month if it does. If it'll change mid-month if it does. That's easy. If it changes and you were very conservative when you added it, but you still didn't even make that much, you've got to cut more expenses. Like, it's very simple. If your income doesn't match, our expenses have to just be below it, and we're good. So expenses is the easiest thing to control. You can easily control expenses. You can easily control that aspect of the budget. So make sure that you focus on that aspect of your budget, the expense part, not the income part, and you will be okay. Like, your budget month to month will get better. Your financial wellness will get better, and you will start to appreciate a lot more of your how your money is getting spent. You'll start to appreciate where it's going, and what you're getting out of it. So with that being said, I didn't see anything in the chat. So the next thing is that I'm going to go over is a couple of different things that are a couple of different utilities, tools, whatever you want to call them, that you can utilize. So I'm going to take a quick break. Everyone stretch your legs. I'm going to go in to get this all set up. Quick break, and then we will go right into the live. right. All right. Let's set this up. So, a couple different ways we're going to do this. So, first off, we went over the envelope budgeting method. Easy. We went over cash budgeting. Super easy, right? If you have questions, reach out. Social media, email, however, financialmirror.org. Bottom of the page, contact me. I'll go over cash budgeting if you don't understand exactly what I was talking about. For the next one, so for this, we're just gonna use Google Docs Sheets. So let's go into this. So pretty easy if you use this. So let's go in, log in right here. All right. So we are logged into Google Sheets. Now with this, so if this is a digital way to go about doing your budget, okay? So cash for paper and pen is practically the same as this Excel version. The only difference in this is that you are not writing it down, you're just going to type it out. So pretty easy to set up. So I'm doing all this live because I want you to see, even when we get into the digital ones. I'm going to set up the account. Obviously, I'll use my privacy screen for privacy reasons, but we'll go through. I'll set everything up. I'll show you real life what it's going to look like. Okay, even the speed, how long this takes. It's not that long, right? So for this, strictly, you could make cool. Thanks, got it. So your income sources right here. You could do. Actually, what I would probably do is like title, and I would do income. I think this is how I would do this. Expenses. That's probably what I would do. Yeah, that's exactly what I would do. So, so then let's say I go to Starbucks with a little extra stuff. I go to Foodland. I get my paycheck. You're literally just going through this bad boy, and you're knocking it out. You're going through and you're getting everything typed in that you need. So now this is where you could call this income. You could call it whatever, money coming in. I don't know what you want to call it. But anyway, so for this column, these are only positive numbers. This column would only be negative numbers. So this wouldn't be an income. This would be an expense. So let's say we spent $5 there. We spent $100 there. And we got a paycheck for $500. So then what you could do is come down here and write the sum of all of these. That's my income, and then the sum of all of these, and that's my expenses. And then you could just do that, and it'd be plus that for $395. So if you didn't do negatives for this, then you could do that minus that, depending on how you want to do that. So if you wanted to just do the sum, if you wanted to do that, this would be B9 minus C9, then you just do positives for this, okay? So, and then you can just do B9 minus C9 for the same $395. So, depending on how you want to go about that, either one is fine. But this is just one example. This is a digital version of doing your budget through Excel. Super easy. Doesn't take anything other. The Google Sheets is free. So if you have a Google account, you can get on here and do this. It'll all be backed up and saved. You can access it from your phone, update it from your phone. Like Google Sheets would be a huge value added if you want to do it this way. Okay. All right. So just one example, but this is this simple. Title, where you spend it at. Was it an income? Was it was it an expense or income? And then your total, how much was left over. You could get fancy, and you could start doing tags or something like that to say, well, this was a business, so I'm going to sign this off as a business expense. So then at the end of the year, you can come back and you can sort and see all of these that fell under business expense. You could sort these out. That way you'd be able to see, hey, my one business expense, well, Starbucks. So at the end of the year, you could go through and do that. Like, I mean, you could build this out however you want. Just know that, oh, look, that's how much money I spent at Starbucks. So build this out however you want. But this is one option. So far, cash, we went over envelope, cash budgeting. Now, this is Excel budgeting. Boom. This easy. For the next one, this is another option. So every dollar, this is an app. So this is Dave Ramsey, Ramsey Every Dollar. He's the one that started this. He created this Every Dollar. So he created the Every Dollar app. This does have an app. So if you do decide that hold on, let me fill this out. All right, so cool. All right, so we got that. So I gotta verify an account. So with Every Dollar, what I want you to know is that this is if you are not interested, and I repeat, not interested in attaching your checking account to this to automatically pull in your expenses, then this would be preferred. You would probably want to use this app because ultimately this one costs $99 a year if you want that feature. So if you want the ability for it to pull your stuff in, by all means go ahead and sign up. So I just skipped the deal. Okay, so let's take that off. So this is when you log in. This is where you get. So create October budget. So this is the free version right here. Ramsey's free. If you want the premium, like I said, it's $99 a year. So if you wanted to pay for it, you could. However, the only difference in the two is literally one allows you to add bank accounts. The other one does not. You have to come in and manually add your stuff. So if I was budgeting, this one would be the digital platform that I would use if I did not want my checking account to be tied to it. Okay. So with that being said, this is easy. He goes through, gives you insights into your budget, spending, where your money's going, income, giving, savings, required. Like these are all editable, but these groups are editable. However, they're all set up for you initially. You can go in, edit their names, how much money is planned. You can go in and once you add a transaction. So if you went in, so let's add that income. Let's add that we made $500. It came from our paycheck, our job. All right, fill in your job. And that's going to be paycheck 1. We're going to track that income. No thanks. So boom. So I've received $500. I planned $500. Oh, not 5,000, because that's going to make me look bad. Boom, $500. So now I can see once I start putting in expenses. So I have a $500. So let's say I want to do a church giving. So I'm on a plan to give $200 to the church. Boom, 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 boom. And you can see how much you have left to give to the church. You haven't given anything to the church yet. So you want to set aside all the money. This is how much you've spent. You haven't spent anything. So now let's add that you gave 175 to the church. So when you choose that you want to track that expense, you didn't give the full 200. You only gave 175, so you only spent that. You were planning to spend 200, so now you could go in. You have another 25 left. You could go in and edit that. So that's exactly all this is. This is just another tool for you to use for your budget. So feel free if you want to use every dollar. It's called every dollar. Go in, set that up, and this is another tool for you to use to knock out your budget. So the next one, so personal capital, I did some research on. That is an up and coming, I don't know how long it's been out, 2017. So this was one of the top ones that I saw. So I wanted to very quickly go over it. Once again, I don't know much about this one. I've never used it. So for every dollar, I've used it personally. I've paid for the $99 a year. So I am very familiar. Let's see. There we go. So I got created on personal capital, first use. So this is where we're at. That's what it came to. So my name is, let's do this. I am 28, plan to retire at 50, and I've saved $0. Welcome. So if you want to add your bank accounts, boom. I don't really care to, so how do I get out of that? Or maybe I have to. Hopefully I don't, because I don't want to. Link just one account to understand your money. Okay, so it doesn't look like I'm gonna be able to do this one. I don't plan on adding my bank account. So with that being said, so personal capital is another one to use. Just won't be able to give you a, hopefully the last one I go over is Mint. So hopefully Mint doesn't require me to add an account. Like I said, this is all live, so hopefully you're going to get a feel. And you can see I've gone through 2 different online ones fairly quickly. So Mint is run by the same people, Intuit, which also runs TurboTax, QuickBooks. So if you do use any of those, all of that data will transpire across all platforms, which is cool. So Mint is the one that I use personally. So if you're not familiar, I will happily answer any questions you have about Mint. I do not mind. All right, so here we go. So it looks like they're going to make me add an account too. All right, I don't want to add an account. All right, so I will just look up this. So that was an epic failure on on logging into that. So I'll just show you. This is just looked up a picture. So here's a picture of how the budget looks, right? So you set your income, you set your expenses. These bars fill up as you spend in each of the categories. You can quickly edit these very, very quickly. As you spend money, these are automatically, you link your bank to them, they automatically upload, they automatically update, and then you see how much your paycheck has come in and how much you were expecting. And then it tracks right here at the top. It tracks. These turn red or green, like July's green because there was money left over, which they use the term leftover. We want zero. Leftover should be zero. So very big on that. So leftover, zero. So go through, try out Mint, pick one of these, try them all. So I just learned today, personal capital, Mint, both require you to hook your bank up. Not optional, required to hook your bank up. It will not let you get through the setups without it. So if you want to establish that, just log in, add your bank, it'll pull in. I've been using Mint for a couple of years now. I switched from EveryDollar to Mint, and I would tell you it's great. They have the ability to add goals. So all those financial goals that we talked about, you would be able to see the goals. You have a breakdown of how much money is going into each of your categories, and it meets every intent of what I need out of a budgeting app. So very important that you come up with your way of doing it, and then decide and go forth with that way. Okay, so for budgeting, that kind of sums up what I wanted to cover. So if there's anything that comes up while you're going through this, please reach out to me. Let me know. I would be happy to help you. So this week's challenge: create your first budget. So if you've never created a budget, go create it. If you had a budget and it didn't fall into these criterias, go and adjust your budget to meet some of these things that may have been talked about, that may have sparked an interest in you. So go today. Budgeting shouldn't wait. We're halfway through the month, but you can still go in, set yours up, get an idea, and start controlling your finances today. So don't wait. Go ahead, jump on it, and do it. So I'm telling you, financial freedom will come as soon as you get control of your finances. As soon as you know where your money's going, financial freedom will follow. So go out, grab as much as much of the income and expense information you need, and put that into your budget, and you'll be happier for it. I promise you. You'll start realizing what you can actually afford and what you need someone else. You need a little bit more time, not someone. You need a little bit more time to be able to afford. So go out and do that. So appreciate everyone for jumping on. If you are a Amazon Prime member, don't forget that you do have a free Prime subscription that you can utilize to subscribe to the channel and show your support. So I really appreciate for everyone that jumped on. Hopefully you all got something out of this. Like I said, this will be posted to YouTube and Facebook tomorrow. Tomorrow afternoon, this will all be posted. Go out, share it with all your friends and family. Hopefully this will reach out and grab someone. Like I said, this isn't about me making a living off of this. I have no intentions of that. I really just want to help people. I want people to be able to start to control their finances. Because in my mind, the more knowledgeable people are, the more financial knowledge people have, the better relationships you can have with those people, because they don't have that stressor that's being a burden on them. So next week is going to be debt management, and talk about some of the things that come with debt, some of the ways people try to play with debt to get out of it. There's only one true way. So tune in next week. Next week, let me also state this. This will be on all the social media. So next week, I will not be streaming Sunday afternoon. I will be doing a Friday afternoon, late afternoon stream. So be prepared for that. Next week, I've got that'll be going forward. So I'm in the Army Reserve. So once a month, I've got my battle assembly where we get together and do the Army stuff. So on those weekends, I will do Friday afternoon streams, unless Monday works better. Stay posted on social media. Mondays might end up working better. I've got to see, because sometimes the battle assembly weekends are three days, and that would be a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Because I want to be consistent with this. Okay, I want everyone to expect and know when I'm going to be on. So right now, I will go in and let you know next week. Let's do a Monday. Let's do a Monday stream. Let's not do Friday. Just to be on the safe side. Let's do a Monday afternoon stream, and we'll do that going forward for any time there's a battle assembly weekend. So we'll do a Monday. Life will be good. We'll knock that out and rock and roll that way. So once again, appreciate everyone for watching, and I'll see you next week.